What's good, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? Welcome. So we're here today with a lot Bible TV reaction, which has been like on my radar for a while now. Ever since I watched like two Bible TV's videos that popped up on like my recommendation feed. One was about like a London gangster and like the one killing that haunts him, and then the other one was like him and another gangster just talking. And I really enjoyed that video, and I thought, you know what, let me try and go through that channel. And I watched those videos like a month ago or so, or 2 months ago, but I thought to myself, I really want to like watch more, and it just popped into my head again, and I was like, you know what, let's actually go through their channel, see what they've got, and like react to some interesting one, some things that I would probably find interesting. So we've got this one right here. I mean, we've got 3 that we're going to be doing, obviously not in one video, but we've got 3 that we're going to be doing on this channel. From what I found, obviously there might be more. I've just had a very quick glance over it. But this one is titled London's Most Notorious Female Gangster on a Life of Crime. That's how it's done, yes. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to watch the original one, you can watch it. I'll have it linked in the description down below, so you guys can check it out on the Bible TV channel. Go support them. You know, obviously their videos probably take a lot of time to make, so all I will say is go support them. Let me just double check that the audio is working.
Is that true that you've met?
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, with that said, I think we're all good. Alright, let's watch this and get started.
Is that true that you've met Cray Brothers?
I met Reg. I used to speak to him every week for half an hour.
No, I don't have an accent. I don't have an issue with the accent. Well, because I am from the UK. Well, I hear the UK English accent all the time. I am in England, but I'm assuming I'm just going to turn the subtitles on just, in case.
And he used to send me flowers and little gifts. And he actually proposed to me twice.
What did you tell him?
I said no. I didn't think it was a very good idea for either of us.
Okay. A gangster, the Black Widow.
I grew up in the East End of London.
It's always EOE London, isn't it? It's always EOE London. It's always every single person in the UK that makes it big. Whether that's in crime, whether that's on anything else, they're always from East End of London. It's strange. It's strange.
I grew up in the East End of London. I had a very happy childhood.
Okay.
We were not very rich, as was most of the people in the East End.
Yep.
But then that was the norm for where we grew up in those days.
Would you say there was a lot of crime going on?
There was. Obviously, when I was young, I didn't really take any notice, but I know my parents used to say about, oh, they're always selling knocked off stuff. And it wasn't until
harmless.
I met my then-to-be first husband that I actually ever got involved in crime.
Okay.
Can you tell me, how did you meet your first husband?
Mickey was an armed robber, and
That's
he,
probably why.
I suppose, like a lot of the youngsters in the East End, they wanted better, and him and 3 of his friends did an armed robbery on a security van, and they all got caught and they all went to prison for 8 years. This was prior to me meeting him.
Okay.
I met him when he come home, and I saw my cousin in the market with her husband, and they said to me, oh, what are you doing Saturday? And I said, oh, I'm not doing anything. So they said, well, come to this party. We're doing a party for this guy, Mickey, that's just come out of prison. And I didn't want to go. For some reason, I think because of all the old films.
For some reason, yeah, a criminal. Yeah, let's go meet a criminal. I think you don't really need a reason at this point.
In those days, all the crooks were the ugly ones, and all the so-called goodies, I suppose,
Okay, that
the
makes
heroes
sense.
were all the good-looking ones.
That makes sense.
And I just imagined that this guy was going to be really ugly, and do I really want to go? And my cousin went, oh, please, it's only just one night, you haven't got to see him again. But he's the only one that's on his own, where he's been in prison so long. And when we met each other, we were both pleasantly surprised. And that was it. He was very charismatic. And when my family all met him, he won them over. And to me, he was this most gorgeous, handsome person, and I was just totally besotted by him.
Okay.
So what kind of crimes would he commit?
I'm robbery, right?
Him and his friends, they used to rob banks, security.
I shouldn't say this, and you didn't hear this from me. I know someone that's robbed a bank before. But like, you know, that was before they had security cameras and all that, so it's a bit. He's obviously significantly older than me. And I know someone that robbed a bank before. He got away with it actually, until. Well, actually, it doesn't matter whether I say it or not. Like, he got away with it, moved countries until he got caught. And he didn't get caught like because like they caught him. He got caught because he tried to come back to the country where, you know, they originally were looking for him. So he got away with it for like 4 or 5 years in a different country, and then when he went back to like the original country, they found him, and then locked him up. But he had rich parents, so they just got him out of there. But it is robbing banks is surprisingly well. It used to be surprisingly common. I feel like because I know a lot of I know a lot of stories of older people doing it quite often, and obviously I know myself one person that's done it. But like in terms of like the modern era, I've never met anyone that's robbed a bank, you know, ever since the invention of cameras or anything of that sort. So yeah, just strange I find.
Vans, post offices.
Why always post
He would
offices?
sit and plot his jobs with his friends. And he'd say to me, I'm going to work on Friday, which meant he would be doing an armed robbery. And for some reason, they all used to come to my house to sit and plot, and I used to make them sandwiches and cups of tea while they were discussing what they were going to do. He didn't hide anything from me. And my parents were hoping that he was going to get a job.
A good one. He got one.
Go to work, but that wasn't on his agenda.
I can imagine.
And he said, no, I want the good things in life. And people like me, the only way we can get it is by being robbers.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So what ended up happening to Mickey?
It was a Saturday morning, and it was very near to Christmas. And he said, I'm not going to put any bullets in my gun. He got his cartridges, he emptied everything out. He just put wadding in, and he just sealed the cartridges.
Okay.
And he said, if I have to fire my gun, all I'm going to shoot out is a load of fluff. So I couldn't hurt anybody, but the noise, there'll still be the effect of the noise.
That's not.
And he never came back that day. And I was out looking for him. And 6 o'clock the next morning, Terry, Mickey's brother, phoned. And he said to me, Mickey's been arrested. You've got to get here straight away. And as we walked in,
I thought he
Terry
died.
opened the door. And as I looked, my mum and all Mickey's family were standing in the lounge. And I said, oh, Mum, what are you doing here? And with that, Terry held my shoulders. And he said, Mickey's dead. And I was handed a brandy, and they said, drink this, Linda. And I drank it, and I said, what happened? And Terry said, well, you know, he did a robbery yesterday. Apparently he got shot dead. That's all I know. And we've got to go to the mortuary to identify him.
That's brutal.
And they lifted the cover back. And while I was doing that, this policeman went, we're really sorry it happened. I'm afraid your husband left us no choice. He said, it's me or you. So I said, what do you mean? So he said, well, your husband faced him and said, it's me or you. So I said, you're telling me my husband faced a policeman with a gun and said it's me or you?
Yeah, that's...
So he said, yeah. I said, you're lying. And the second autopsy was done. I was right. He was shot through the back and the bullet came out the front. And from then on, the police and I...
You know, this is how criminals are born. Straight up, this is how criminals are born. I mean, you can definitely see how, like, she'd go down, you know, a life of crime after that happened.
Locked horns.
What was your life like after Mickey's death?
Well, I think when Mickey died, it sounds strange, and I don't know. I've always said that when I was told that he was shot, something happened to my brain, because I decided I've got to revenge my husband because they've done this to him. So I decided I would become a bank robber and I would take over from what he did, and I became the boss of the gang.
What kind of crimes were you involved in?
Armed robberies, banks, post offices.
Always post
Exactly
offices.
the same as him.
Stop
And
attacking post offices.
we were very successful.
How did it feel like to be a female gangster? Did male gangsters treat you differently?
I think they did. They all respected me, and I actually gradually did become the boss, and everything was put by me. Should we do this? Shall we do that? I met loads and loads of women that were in prison and done lots of different crimes. But I never ever met another girl that did armed robberies.
Actually, Black Widow, the name makes total
It
sense
used
now.
to be funny because when
she's
we
wearing black
used
too.
to share everything out, we'd share it out equally, whether there was 3 of us, 4 of us, whatever. And they all used to go, "Oh no, Linda, you're a girl, we have to give you extra." And they all used to give me extra off of that. So I used to go, "But why are you doing that? We've all done the same thing." And they went, "Oh no, because we feel you should get the extra." And it was it was weird that they all did that to me.
Is that true that you've met Cray brothers?
Infamous Cray brothers.
I met Reg. I used to speak to him every week for half an hour. And he used to send me flowers and little gifts. And he actually proposed to me twice.
What did you tell him?
I said no. I didn't think it was a very good idea for either of us. And he said, "No, I guess not. But I think we would have got on well." Inevitably, in the end, you do get caught because the odds go against you as time goes on. And I was arrested, and I got 7 years from robbery, which was, I had the biggest sentence in Holloway Prison.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's a lot.
So after your first sentence, what happened after that?
I was home 18 months. I'd started a legitimate business with my sister.
Okay.
And I turned my back on crime. And then I was with my then boyfriend. He was out on a day's home.
Don't tell me he's going to die now too.
And I picked him up. We went to my home, and as we walked in my house, the door got kicked in and a gunman ran in and he was shot dead. And when they found out who I was, they then charged me with the murder.
So how much did you get for that?
I was charged with gangland murder. Because I wouldn't say I committed the crime, I ended up doing 18 years.
Forensics,
What was
bitch.
the prison life like that second time?
Some prisons were really hard. There's a lot of bullying. There's a lot of stealing off each other. It's like a world in miniature. I suppose in one way I was lucky because when I went to prison the first time, as were the men who went to prison, the bank robbers were looked on as the hierarchy that everyone in the prison looked up to.
That's strange.
I suppose I actually got that same from when I went into prison the first time. And it was sort of like, oh, wow, she's the armed robber. And it did good for me, if that makes sense. The girls all respected me. And when I went back the second time, I met a lot of the same girls that I knew. And, I mean, I was lucky. I sailed through prison.
I mean, you survived 18 years.
I never got bullied.
That says it all.
Got picked on. I always got treated with the utmost respect from all the girls. So I suppose in that way I was quite lucky.
You have served with some of the most notorious female criminals. Who did you meet in prison?
I met Myra Hindley. She was doing the washing in the laundry.
The Moors murderers. Together they murdered 5 children. Why children? Murder some people that deserve it, but why children?
And I walked in with mine, and she was singing, taking washing out the machine. And I just thought, how dare you sing when you did what you did? And I just walked up and went slap round her face. And she stood up and went like this and went, I could get you sent back to Holloway for that. And I went, Holloway doesn't hold any fears for me. And I sort of just put my washing down and walked out. And I thought, oh, bloody hell, I don't really want to go back to Holloway. But she never did report me.
Is that true that when you were getting out, she gave you a present?
Oh, she gave me a caftan and a dressing gown, not a dressing gown, a cardigan.
Why do you think she gave you a present?
Because I had to do the job of cutting her hair. Well, not cutting it, colouring it. And when she was in High Point, they said, do you know anyone in here? And she looked at the list of names and she said, the only person I know is Linda. So they said, well, she'll have to come and do your hair for you. And they come and saw me and said to me, to colour Myra's hair. And I said, well, I don't really want to. And it was, well, look, Linda, you want to go home? So I said, yeah, I do want to go home. So they went, well, the governor said he is expecting you to do her hair.
Would you say she was a nice person?
She was horrible. She was awful. Really, really horrible, cold and hard and nasty. She had nothing nice at all about her. Towards the end of my
Interesting video.
And I started getting home leaves, I then met my third husband. And I got engaged in the prison, and he went to my parole hearing and said, I want to marry her. He was an honest person. They checked him all out. And I think that is the main reason that I actually got released in the end.
Okay.
And I married George a year after I came out of prison, who unfortunately died 4.5 years ago. He died of cancer.
They quite famously call you...
I can see why.
Yes. I don't take myself seriously. And I think, okay, I'm the Black Widow.
Not the Marvel one.
Black Widow. Do I care? It doesn't matter. George, they said, oh, how do you feel about marrying the Black Widow? He went, I feel honoured that she's accepted me. And it was, when he was dying, he said to me, you've always said you wanted to write. He said, and everyone else has written about you. Do your life story and put the story right. So I said, yeah, I will. And I started writing, and I wrote The Black Widow, my life story. I look back now and don't recognise that person. I really don't. And it is so alien to me that I sort of am shocked at myself to think that I actually was that person and did do the things I did. And there is a deep regret on that.
Interesting.
If you could say one thing to your younger self, what would that be?
Don't go to that party. And then what would I have been? Hopefully a very different life. But then I wouldn't have had my 2 children, and I love them dearly.
There you go.
And
There you
crime
go.
is well and truly left behind. It was a long, long time ago. It doesn't
Isn't it?
pay. There's nothing good about going to prison. Nothing. It wastes your life. And out of, if they say, does crime pay? Maybe for 5%. That means 95% have wasted their lives and their time. And it's very sad.
Very, very interesting and fascinating video in regards to the Black Widow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, this is the one that I've seen prior to this one. But yeah, as I was saying, very interesting and very fascinating video. As I said, I feel like armed robbery is like something that happened a lot more in the old run. Obviously, it was a lot easier, I guess, to get away as well. But why always the post office? Why were we always going after the post office? Go after, the rich folks, With the guard dogs, get rid of the guard dogs, get rid of the, well, don't get rid of the dogs, actually. Get rid of the, get rid of the security guards. Go after the people that have the money. I mean, post office, sure, they have money, but go after the people that really have the money. Come on, man. I wouldn't want to work at a post office, honestly. I really wouldn't want to work at a post office. I just feel like, man, why are they always targeting us? What have we done? Like, what have we done? All we do is just have stamps. Stop targeting us. Stop targeting us. But yeah, that was a very interesting video. As I said, I will have linked for the original one in the description down below, so if you want to check it out, you can do so over on Lad Bible TV's YouTube channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, live a good life. Don't live the life of crime. Something inspirational, something motivational. Haha. I'll see all of you in the next one, everyone. Until then, have a nice day.